Hello there, guys. My name is Ed Watts from Warp Pilot Studios. I'm going to be going through the new Nightlords detachment today. We're going through the rules, the detachment, the enhancements, all the cool little strats that you can do with it, and all the cool new little tech pieces. Then I'm going to go into some really cool, impactful units that you can use in this detachment to some awesome effects and some little combinations. So let's get into it, guys. Okay, so the Nightmare Hunt. This is our awesome new Chaos Space Marine Night Lord Detachment. This is going to be. This looks awesome, by the way. I think it's not going to be like the most competitive thing that's going to be available to the CSM players everywhere. But I think overall it looks really really good. It looks really really fluffy. It looks like it's going to have a lot of tech that sort of the old Night Lord Detachment tried to do. It's going to have be a little bit more effective at what it's going to try and actually achieve. So you go into the detachment rule first. So the detachment rule is effectively in the battle shock step of your opponent's command phase, you can force a battle shock check if they're within 12 inches of one or more heretic starters units, and that test is taken at -1. Now you can't take another test as well as this one, but this is an already pretty strong ability, especially if you're going to be trying to use these combat units to try and apply pressure, and it pairs well with the other half of the detachment rule as well, which is each time a heretic starter's model from your army attacks a target that is below half strength, add one to the hit roll. So if they're already taking battle shocks, you do +1 to hit. And each time a heretic starter's unit from your army, if the attacking model is battle shocked, add subtract one from the hit roll. So they're hitting you, they're -1 to hit you if they are battle shocked, which obviously gives you another layer of defensive buffs on your CSM, which is awesome. And the final part of this detachment rule is each time a heretic starter's model from your army, it makes an attack that targets a unit that's battle shocked, add on to the wound roll. So this is really powerful. It's like all of the tyranny detachment, all the tyranny detachment with the neurolicks and all that sort of thing have lots of layered abilities that sort of like produce this ability, right? Produce the exact same thing. So neurolictors can force battle shock. If you're within 12 of a neurolictor, you get -1 to hit. And if it's within 12 of you and you're attacking it with something, it's +1 to wound. Now, this is obviously going to be a lot much more, like specific in the fact that you've got, if they're going to be trying to -1 to hit you, it's going to be more combat based. But Heretic starters model from your army that makes an attack that targets the unit that's battle shock is +1 to win. That includes shooting. So I feel like the Nightmare Hunt is sort of leaning towards a mixed arms approach just from the detachment rule alone. It's not purely combat orientated. It's not purely shooting orientated. It seems that its rules can be a healthy mix of both. Enhancements. So I'm gonna try and pronounce these, and it's gonna be an absolute butchering. So forgive me. So we have the Grey Veil Hex. This is a Chaos Lord model, and the basically means the Chaos Lord model joins a unit, and it gives them stealth. And whilst the bearer's unit is within range of one or more objective markers, and it can't be shot by anything outside of 18 inches, basically it's low, which is really really good. So this is something that's quite powerful on UKTC boards as well, especially if you wanted to like bring this like the combat units to try and stage and stuff. Not getting shot within 18 inches is obviously going to be a benefit, which is great. Now, I think the enhancement, there's going to be a few good enhancements here. So I'm not sure whether this makes the cut, but I do quite like it. Next, we've gone to Warp Fueled Thrusters. This is a Chaos Lord jump pack model only, which is really awesome to have specific enhancements for these guys because they haven't really had much love. But I think they're an awesome, model. And I think they're an awesome unit as well that can go within your Chaos Space Marines. This is at the end of your fight phase. If this model has fought this phase and is not within engagement range, it can go back into strategic reserves. This gives a unit the Warp Talon ability, which is going to create some really annoying anti-trade opportunities, which is going to be really hard for your opponents to deal with. And I think this is inherently very, very good. So I think this is an enhancement that you're going to be seeing quite a lot of, to be honest. I think it's a very good enhancement. I think it's one that you can sort of weaponize alongside Warp Talons as well. And also, it means you have a unit with a Lord in there to do that extra damage to make sure that you kill that unit, to make sure you can go back into reserves. Also, while your trade, the little trade MSU pieces and your shooting cleans up what's left. And also means that you can't be pushed. So you can always use that unit and use that rapid ingress. Next is the Terraglut Parasite. So this is a heretic starters model only, so it can go on anyone. At the start of the fight phase, each enemy unit within engagement range of the bearer must take a battle shock test. So it is only the bearer's unit. So that is something to bear in mind. So you can't just put it onto like a dark commune and just turn up everywhere. I don't think you can do it anyway because they're damned. But it's a theory I'm going with. We've got to basically put it onto the only way you can use the battle shock test is just from that model. It's like the Dante ability, because it's not an aura. So this one's good. I think forcing more battle shocks is going to be great, and subtracting one from the result as well makes it a lot more reliable. So, and a lot of the your entire attachment ability is based around battle shocks, and obviously battle shocks when weaponized and have lots of modifiers can be really hard for your opponent to sort of deal with. So especially if you've got like a Legion 7 base army like Imperial Guard, Votan, all that sort of thing, they're going to be struggling to pass these battle shocks on a consistent level. So you're going to be struggling to activate their strats. And on top of that, the ones that do pass their battle shocks, you have them score. So you can sort of plan around where things are battle shocked and where things aren't, and the ones that aren't battle shocked, you can nemesis claw so they can't interrupt or do any AOC or anything like that on that piece as well, which is obviously in itself a very powerful tool. So that's brilliant. And then the last one is Sorrow Scent Vulture. So this is a Chaos Lord jump pack model only, and it gives the unit Scout. Now, on top of the fact that there's a strat in here for advance and charge, this can create quite a bit of first turn pressure. And the fact that you have access to cheap infiltrators like Nurglings in a single setting, this can be, especially on Search and Destroy maps, can be very difficult for your opponent to stop if you go first. If you go second, slightly harder, but still a very powerful tool to make people deploy as if they have to respect this. So I do like it quite a lot. Now, all of those enhancements actually sound pretty good. So I think the three that I would be aiming for is the Warp Fuel Thrusters, the Terraglut Parasite, and the Sorrowsen Vulture. I like those. I like the Lone Op. It's cute. It's also only 18 inches. On some of these boards, they can get within those 18 inches anyway. The stealth is nice, but with your -1 to hit and your battle shock text anyway, the pieces that are going to be going out, I think you're going to be getting more value out of the other enhancements here. So let's go on to the stratagems. The stratagems look very interesting. I quite like these stratagems as a whole. So let's just get into it. Let's go on to the stratagems. So Talon Sunk Deep is an interesting one. So effectively, this is you get +1 AP if the target is below half strength or is battle shocked. Now you've got a lot of ways to give battle shock to the pieces that you're going to be trading with. As we've discussed before, you've got the battle shock at the start of the phase. You've got the battle shock potentially from your actual lord itself, and these, and you've got a battle shock strat later on as well. So this can be very powerful, especially if you're leaving little pieces here and there. And weaponizing battle shock again is a very powerful tool. So that one's an interesting one. And obviously, +1 AP on some of these units is going to go crazy. Like AP3 Warp Talons and +1 Hit and Wound is crazy. So I think that will be quite powerful, especially when you've got the Dark Packs as well. Makes them a lot more reliable. Next is Prey on the Weak. This is your shooting or fight phase. One Hector starters infantry unit from your army that has not been set to shoot or fight yet this phase. Until the end of the phase, each time model makes an attack that targets an enemy unit or targets an enemy unit that's battle shocked or below half strength, re-roll the hit roll. This is really, really good. So one CP reroll to hit is always great. It does have this prerequisite of that it has to be battle shocked. However, there are a few ways you can cause battle shocks, as we have seen. And again, if they're battle shocked, they'll be +1 to, you'll be +1 to hit, you'll be +1 to wound, or the +1 to hit if you're below half strength, but you'll be +1 to wound and you'll have reroll hits. So unlike a small unit of raptors or anything like that, especially when you've got lots of leadership modifiers alongside of this, it's going to be really, really, really potent. There's going to be really potent little trade pieces that are going to absolutely blitz certain units off the board, especially when they're battle shocked. And look at the amount of fight on death, AOC, all that sort of thing that's available at the moment. So if you can battle shock, it also just world is right. If you've got a 20-man unit berserkers, they get battle shocked, and then you can get the +1 to hit, and then you can get the +1 to wound, and you can shoot them first. Like there's so many awesome opportunities for this detachment to produce this, value out of what you're trying to get for, which is brilliant. So Crown of the Week is a fantastic strat. Rerolls hit, we always love it. Next is Sadistic Display. So this is the fight phase, just after a Heretical starters unit from your army has destroyed an enemy unit. So in that means each enemy unit within 6 inches and visible to your unit must take a battle shock test. This is really good. However, the issue is it's going to be in the fight phase just after you've destroyed a unit. So you're going to force battle shock tests if you do this in your turn, and then they're going to be able to run battle shock in their turn. So this is more impactful from a heroic that's managed to kill something, all that sort of stuff. So let's say, for instance, you've killed an enemy unit in your opponent's turn, and there's a few key units there, and you force this battle shock test. This can be quite powerful. So this is something to bear in mind, and I wouldn't use this strat to, unless it's trying to get. It is also great for if you're trying to get certain secondaries and stuff. If your opponent's battle shocked, it might help. So, flipping an objective, getting storm hostile objective, that sort of thing. And just denying primary not as much because, obviously if they can unbattle shock in their turn if they're still, above half strength. But you can also force that battle shock again in their battle shock test, in their battle shock step. So, but it does have to be below starting strength. So again, there's lots of stipulations with this. I think it's going to take a while for people to properly hone in on what this detachment can actually do, and it's still going to be up for fighting for other detachments as well. But go into the actual overall, make like a metric of it later. But for now, this is a good strat. Next, we're going on to Malicious Surge. So this is your charge phase, and this means you can effectively advance a charge. Advance a charge is a great strat. We've seen how powerful it is in lots of different attachments, and especially on that scout unit at first as well. Especially when you can rapid ingress and then rapid advance a charge with like warp talons and all that sort of thing. It's going to be really really good. So I would definitely look at that as a definite potential. Also, there's unit that scouts can be warp talons. So you can have a unit of warp talons, scout, advance, and charge turn one, go back up in the air, and then be ready for a turn two rapid. So this is going to be a really, really powerful tool for later on in the game. And then Relentless Terror. So Relentless Terror is your movement phase just after a Hegel starts, is fall back, gives you fall back and charge, and shoot and charge. I think, yeah, declare fall back, shoot and charge. Again, great strat. Strat that you'll be using sometimes when you just get tagged by that one annoying thing. I think you'll be having a lot of Chaos Lords around, so you have a lot of free strats as well. The issue is all of these strats are really good, and I think all of them help towards the goal that you're trying to achieve with this detachment. So it's going to be quite CP hungry. But I do think Relentless Terror seems like a very useful tool. And then Horrific Incursion. So this is in your movement phase. So one Heretic Stars unit that is arrived from reserves this turn, select an unit within 12 inches, and they take a battle shock of -1. So again, it's more battle shocks strats. So like it's one of those things. If they fail that battle shock just before your rapid ingress unit has moved over and charge, this could just be like 5 raptors and just dropping down, forcing a battle shock test, or could be a strat reserve unit or anything along those lines. Now, I think Raptors are probably your piece here. I think MSU Raptors are going to be quite powerful here, especially when you want to rapid ingress the Warp Talons, bring down Raptors 9 away, force battle shock tests, then charging the Raptors, and then charging the Warp Talons if you haven't already battle shocked them, which is obviously a very powerful tool as well. So this one's a little bit more situational, but I think it's still a very good tool. I think if you had Uppy Downy in this detachment, this would be fantastic because you could just yo-yo it and force these battle shocks. But again, if this set of strats and the set of detachment rules really does feel like it's really leaned into the Nightlords, lore, which feels really, really fantastic, right? It definitely feels like they've actively thought about what they want this detachment to achieve and the feel it wants to achieve for the players who are going to be using it. And I feel like that's very conscientious of them. And for a Grotmus detachment, I think this is a really, really good example of what Grotmus detachment should be. So really happy with the detachment rules there. Really happy with the strats. I think they're really, really cool. I think it'll still struggle to fight over the other detachments that CSM have. They are spoiled for choice. They have great detachments, but this is a very welcome addition here, and I think it's brilliant Grotmus detachment to add. Okay, now we're going to go on to impactful units. These are units that I think are going to be awesome for your army to try and weaponize the strats, weaponize the enhancements, and try and make it as strong as possible for you to have the most success you can in this game. Now, first of all, I think Chaos Lords with jump packs are going to be really, really good at this detachment. I think 2 minimum, mainly because you've got the Warp Talent squad that can jump into with Scout, so it actually is a fantastic piece for that because it pushes the damage from the Warp Talons over a little bit. So, like, sometimes I'll go into something and struggle to kill it. So, because, the Warp Talons have the classic issue of, oh, hit on threes, oh, I've missed 20 times, oh no, they're bounced, now I've got 250-point units sat there chilling. This Chaos Lord does help to push that maths over the edge because you have like another 5 or 6 attacks damage too. Also, with this unit into a battle shocked unit with 2 CP is a bit nuts. So what you can do is give it +1 AP and rerolls to hit. Now that means they'll have the 10 Warp Talons will have full rerolls to hit, full rerolls to wound, sustained or lethal with like 40 attacks. And 40 attacks with anything at +1 to hit if you blow like half strength as well. But that's less likely, especially turn 1. But rerolls to hit with sustained is still enough. So if you have full rerolls to hit with sustained, then you've got twin linked, and then if they're battle shocked, you +1 to wound. And that means that this unit then into toughness 9 targets is pushing a lot of damage. This will kill an AB9. Like I feel like pretty comfortably. Like, especially being AP3, it'll kill a baby knight and then go back up in the air. And then you're like, oh no. And this piece can really push the maths on the things you're going with. Obviously, they're warp talents. They'll have a well, there's still this Chaos Lord goes into the warp talent squad, but the Chaos Lord can also go into a Raptor squad, which can do the exact same thing. So a Chaos Lord would jump back and go into a Raptor squad, and you can use that for like easy trades. Because you can just put it into 10 man Raptors. And also having that modifier around the entire unit is really powerful as well. So Chaos Lord's jump packs I really like. They're a really good home for your enhancements as well, because two of them you need to have a Chaos Lord with jump pack. So I would definitely consider these guys on your list. Next, we've touched on them, but let's go into them more. Warp Talons. Warp Talons have been the bane of some people's lives. However, because it basically requires you to have a master degree to use them. Because if you just slightly under predict what they do, and they do that, and they don't spike when roll a bunch of sixes, and they don't magic damage out of nowhere, then they whiff. And when they whiff, they then disappear in return. So 10 marine bodies by Bimmer. They do just disappear. Now, because you have access to this Lord, and I've mentioned the reasons earlier why the Lord is very good in this unit, it pushes this damage over the edge, as I mentioned before. Having that bit of extra damage means that the things that would whiff into normally, they absolutely certainly probably won't now. Now, obviously, they're warp talents, as I said before, they still can. But the reason why you don't want more than 10 of these as well, I think people can look at these in this detachment and go, loads of units is going up and down all the time. It's fantastic. But only one can rapid ingress. So it means that if you have the warp talent piece, then I would recommend having just that piece with a Lord and just have just that little package, because that will give a lot of value to your games. And you can because you don't want to have more than one rapid ingress piece to be able to do stuff. Whereas the other Lord squad can go into unit Raptors, they can go out for trading anyway, they can advance and charge, they can deep strike 9 away and just go behind a wall, force battle shock test when they come in with a strat, charge something else into it, and they're staged for the next turn as well. So I feel like there's lots of use out of those two units, but only one of them can rapid ingress at a time, which is going to be your warp talent. It's going to be your own mini game. But this does mean you're going to be using a lot of CP with no actual way to generate them by discarding cards. So this detachment is going to take, like, I feel like it's going to be quite hard to use very effectively. So I would be very careful about CP management and that sort of thing, especially if you're taking the warp talons, and also getting used to the maths on these guys. Sometimes you'll go in and not put enough attacks into one unit and just whiff, or just not quite kill the units you're looking at. Luckily, the Lord does help this maths, but warp talons are definitely an addition in this list, because I think 10 warp talons are fantastic, especially to some of the new arms, especially to a lot of the arms that are coming up now, like Tau and Sisters. They don't like them because they can just turn up, kill something, run off. And especially with the battle shock tech and this entire detachment, Sisters just don't like taking battle shock tests. So there's a lot of armies in the game that will not like playing against these warp talons. Next is Raptors. I think Raptors are fantastic. I'm not sure how many you go. You could go the full 20, or you could just keep that 5 man with a you could keep that 10 man down to a 5 man with a Chaos Lord. But I feel like the Raptors are very good here. The Raptors have a Legion modifier as well. I'd have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure they do have a Legion modifier, which is pretty fantastic in its own right. And especially with the fact that you're going to be leaning on these battle shock tests more often. Now, Raptors as a trade piece are pretty good. They have a melter gun. They have some combat. They have they have a power fist as well, and they're cheap. So I feel like they're going to be doing quite a lot in this detachment, especially with having Raptors that can just advance and charge. Just creates a lot of space that you can cover. And also, they are a piece that you can just deep strike and force battle shock. So that's like the first round or two, you can be using that to do that ability. But your uppy downy is unfortunately limited. So your uppy downy is basically going to be like turn 4 or 5. The only way you're going to be doing this is by using warp talons. So it means that you might have to like blitz in your reinforcement steps, or you can't rapid ingress and do it. So what you can do is deep strike down, force the battle shock, and then try and bag a 9. But these pieces are there for that from turn 2 and 3. So you don't have to give your warp talons to do so. Or if you are setting your warp talons, so they can go back up in the air and then rapid ingress the next turn and do the exact same thing again. Okay, my next piece that I like for this detachment, I've seen them in Shadow Legion a little bit because I've had access to reroll ones. So I can see them being pretty good here, which is going to be Havocs. So Havocs are relatively cheap. I think they're about 125 points for 5. They have access to like last cannons. They have access to the chain cannons, depending on the sort of thing that you want them to, do the job for. But they also have access to this +1 AP in the rerolls tier. So this can actually they can make these little units punch really hard if they're battle shocked. which again you can do from like the battle having a unit within 12, forcing a battle shock test. You can do it with a deep striking unit. You can do it if you're warp talents destroy a unit and then force a battle shock test, all that sort of thing. Now, obviously, got to be aware some of these won't last until your turn when you shoot them. But these little havoc units here and there, just to like either trade out rhinos and go to rhinos with them, is also very good. Another example of this, which is going to be really good as well, is gonna be the noise marines. The noise marines as a data sheet are fantastic. They are great. They kill stuff. They're great out of rhinos, and I feel like those guys are going to be rather good here because they have access to the strats as well. Like well, some of them, and they have access to the detachment rule. So I feel like they're going to have a lot of use out of this detachment. And shooting, having this is where you want to have a balanced approach to your shooting and combat because you want some shooting and some combat to go alongside, and all that good stuff. And notable units afterwards, by the way, I think this is going to be the core for me, and also Chaos Lords and Legionnaires. I'll add those to my little list. Just here, no, here, yeah, yeah. So I have my little list here. But Chaos Lords and Legionnaires, obviously great cheap pieces. Get the reroll wins on objectives, can access to reroll hits. But obviously, at this point, you're going to be wanting to have a lot of stuff. So this is basically trying to make a balance of how much you want to, fit in your list and how much you can. And finally, I'm not sure on this one yet. People are probably going to say that I'm wrong, but Cypher has always been a very good piece in all the CSM lists I've seen because of the Vect and his shooting. He's a good little, he's an annoying little guy that runs around with blown up, and he's very good. So, but if you're leaning into the battle shock tech more, maybe Cypher you don't need, but it's one of those things where, especially with access to Nemesis Claw as well, which I'll get into in a second, having all these pieces are going to be maybe too much. You might have, well, I've got battle shock tech, I've got Nemesis Claw shot strat, and I've got Cypher Vect. It might be too much, and you might not need it all. You might just need some of those pieces rather than all of them. So it might just be a balance between those. Now, I think the approach here would probably be for me Nemesis Claw and the just the Battleshock tech. Just try and lead into that. I think that would be okay because I think the Nemesis Claw is great for shutting off strats, and you've still got a lot of combat and a lot of shooting in this army that you should be able to punch through some stuff that you need to. Okay, and final thoughts. So we're not going to do a list today, so don't have points cost for the enhancements. But I think I've covered these sort of units that I would want to see in the armies from what I've sort of seen. Now, what do you think the units you should take in this detachment? Let me know in the comments, and just if you see have you got any lists and stuff like that, you can go whack it in the Discord because we have a new Discord. Well, we have a Discord. It's not that new, but it's going to be a Discord that everyone can share lists around and all that sort of thing, and can go talk about their painting and hobby side as well because that is a very big part of the channel as well. Now, I'm going to be painting up a Night Lord this week. We're going to try and get the video out for that. But this week on Saturday, we have a really important video to me. It's going to be my 24-hour live stream. Now, obviously, it's going to be 24 hours. I do not expect people to be tuning in for that entire 24 hours. It's more of a challenge to see if we can get the Orc Tusker Demon Killer Army done. It's going to be awesome. But the main thing here is it's going to be for a charity for the Elizabeth Foundation, and all the information I did on the video a while ago. You can go and check that video out. I'll leave it in the link description below and go and check that out. Now, obviously, we're aiming for £1,000 for our GoFundMe page for the Elizabeth Foundation. We're up to about 135 so far, and we have a lot more donations to come in. Now, I would like to shout out Prestige really quickly. They're fantastic. They sponsored the army that we're doing, so they gave us an AOS box and a couple of characters to be able to do this army, which is fantastic. I'm going to be 3D printing some Orky bits and putting them all on there as well. So, guys, we're going to be doing 3 videos this week for these proper attachments. This one hopefully is going to be released today, so that's going to say Monday. If not, it'll be Tuesday, and we're going to release the rest of them day by day as well. So we're going to be releasing the Nightlords attachment and this Imperial Guard attachment and the Blood Angels attachment, and showing you them all this week. So stay tuned for all that, guys. Much love. Again, if you like these videos, please do like and subscribe. We're trying to do a healthy mix of hobby and competitive play on this channel, which is basically my life. So thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.